Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Metaworld News. These will be our headlines for the week ending 26th of May 2019.
Yay.
Um, yeah, got that right, haven't I? Down to the century. Don't know. Well, there's one day in the future there'll probably be another little addendum you put on the
Oh
end.
no.
Well, the 20th century of the 50th galactaboop or something,
Right, right.
But yeah, it's not on the current calendar anyway. So I got that right. Now, this is a program where we do bring you news. So about social virtual worlds was it's always been our primary focus, but over the course of time, since I specialise in computer human interfacing kind of thing, we've included stuff to do with VR tech and all the haptic gadgets that come around, which are intended to enhance our enjoyment of social virtual worlds, amongst other things. You can, of course, just stick on a bloody motorcycle helmet and watch TV if you want to, in surround vision, of course. But who knows? But as we know, gamers love this stuff, and there's been a huge take up of these VR headsets and stuff in the enterprise business. But over and beyond the gamers, not that many people really want to stick them on at home, which is kind of understandable. I mean, imagine you're a motorcycle delivery person and you're running around all day on a bike, breathing polluted air, and wearing this contraption on your head. The last thing you really want to do is get home, sit down, and put another helmet on, is it? It's just, let's face it, it's a bit much, a bit much. So until the goggles, like the ones I'm wearing, they're commonly called spectacles, arrive, we're in a bit of limbo there. Anyway, we do sort of keep up with things a little bit. So more on that as we go along. Now you can follow me. My name, by the way, is Mal Burns, and you can two words, but you can follow me on Twitter with one word, twitter.com/Mal Burns, MALBURNS, squashed together for Twitter's sake. And we have a secondary feed particularly about social virtual worlds, which is named after this show. So it's twitter.com/Metaworld News. Again, squash the words. Yep, it's a rule of thumb
No
in the
spaces.
interwebs. Yeah, rule of thumb on the interwebs. Squash them words. Yep, okay. It's all about squashing or
Right.
compression. Compression, to use the official word, but now
Okay.
we're getting into much wider territory. Back to reality, or virtual reality, should I say? And the first link I have this week. Oh, by the way, I didn't introduce James here. He's talking already, and I forgot to introduce him. Welcome, James Out Loud. He's sitting beside me here commenting, and he's also, you can probably tell, he's got his fingers all over these sort of buttons on the desk and monitors in front of him because he's switching between all our inputs and camera angles and all that sort of multitasking stuff at the same time, leaving me free to just blabber on. Yeah. So, welcome, James, too.
Oh, thanks, Mal. I've always enjoyed being here.
Right. Through to the first link, anyway. This is a post at digitalbodies.net. That's digital bodies, all one word. Yeah, good old squash. And .net. And they've got a piece on a new AR headset that's come from Lenovo. Lenovo are a pretty good mate to be sort of watching. This is strictly speaking AR, not VR, and it's sort of, as far as I can tell, it's sort of modelled on the Microsoft type thing. Um, it's called Think Reality. They do a lot of thinking. This company, they do a range of displays called Think Vision.
Mm. Hmm.
Well, they like thinking basically, apparently. Anyway, this is a thing. It falls a bit behind the Hololens from Microsoft. It's sorry, let me scroll to the top of this article to give you a better idea. They ask, can Lenovo's AI headset shape Microsoft's grip on mixed reality? And they want to beat Microsoft at their own game, and it's designed for the enterprise. HoloLens is already at version 2 with significant improvements. They have laser focus on the corporate market. Um, So much so that there's no pretense of marketing the $3,500 HoloLens 2 as a consumer device.
Hmm.
I think that is a fair assessment. So along comes Lenovo's AR headset, and Think Reality A6 has a lot going for it. One serious drawback: we don't know anything about the cost, but we should have that information shortly. The big question is how does it fare against the almighty Microsoft contraption? And they go on and tell you it's a swings and roundabouts review, really. Um, they Lenovo falls short, as you can see. Where's I go now? I'm jamming down here. Lots of plus points apparently, but also it falls short on field of view and stuff like that. Um, Oh, they are actually they do praise the glass visor the of this thing. I know a step towards getting AR/MR devices into the work environment. Taking the right approach. This you'll appreciate my own thoughts on this, not so much from the enterprise point of view, but in general. The review thinks they're taking the right approach. I would concur. As comfortable as HoloLens is, you're still wearing the entire computer on your head, and it's the battery issue that impacts the weight. Wearing part of it on your belt resolves the issue. This is something Magic Leaf have already realised, and Lenovo um, have done it too. Basically, this Lenovo device is on your belt, and it means that the what's on your head is significantly lightweight and manageable because the operating system is, on your belt. That's a reasonably sturdy place to put it instead of all that weight on your head. Um, so they're basically saying if Lenovo undercuts Microsoft on the price, they'll almost certainly find a ready market as they are spreading into healthcare, education, and other areas. Um, yeah, I might have been reading another review of this too because the idea that this does not have the operating system itself on your head is really the favourable thing with this, so to speak. That little box there you can see from the hand. That actually is the actual processor. That yeah, it looks like you could probably put it in your pocket, let alone on your belt. It's about the size of an SSD hard drive, as you can see. Secondary unit can be worn on your belt or arm, making the headset feel very, very lightweight. So, all very good. Let me move on. You can find that review at digitalbodies.net. Right. Okay. Of course, everything's going the wrong way here. I'll be coming back to that. I'm now moving on to virtualrealitytimes.com. This is three, four words, Virtual Reality Times, but again, they've been undergoing the squashing process. Yes. No spaces. It's a squashed link. Oh dear, this is going to get viral, isn't it? Mal Burns and his squash links. Right, virtualitytimes.com. Um, a statement of fact here, really, but then, of course, going on to tell us what they are. There are more than 550 companies currently in the virtual reality ecosystem. These, of course, range from hardware companies to software and all points in between, really. You got an obligatory, I imagine it's a stock photo. Even the stock photo libraries have pictures like this now. And yeah, sign of the times, really. Not much to say on that. You can check out Virtual Reality Times for a little bit more information, but really, the information is conveyed in the title, and you don't really need too much else. They obviously don't list them all, so there you go. Right, moving on, and this time we're on uploadvr. .com. This again is an editorial. The 1 month on for this reviewer, but actually, as I think most of you realised, that Oculus Quest only came out a few days ago for the actual consumer. Um, Oculus Rift has been a big thing since all these hardware helmets came along and everything else like that. And um, last year or no, probably 2 years ago now, they brought out a thing called Oculus Go, which is untethered. That is to say, it's got the processor on your head. Yes, back to that, aren't we? And it wasn't as fully featured as the Rift, which of course required being tethered to your PC, and having several tethers, I think, one for the screen and one for the processor, and I'm not quite sure what. Anyway, they've brought out this new thing called Quest, which is like the Go in the sense that it's untethered, no wires needed, um, but it is considerably more powerful than uh, the Go, shall we say. And the processor, as I said, is on your head, so it's another rather heavy thing to stick on your head. Apparently, it stands for VR without the hassle. But I mean, I think that is the hassle of having wires. It's not the hassle of having something on your head. I love pictures like that, the one we're showing right now. That beaming wide face. It looks like a dental advert actually. The woman's white teeth, and everything else. And it's sort of meant. It's apparently conveying the static nature of this machine, but somehow that the smile on her face contradicts the bloody thing's the great thing that's hiding half her head. They should make an advert saying Oculus Quest. Yes, you can wear it and still smile. Yes, never mind, never mind. I'm getting bad at this, aren't I? I really
Mm.
need to show that. Rabbit hole, I says.
All right.
Right, anyway, this is actually just one reviewer's opinion. He's obviously had it longer than other people and has been wearing it for longer and sort of giving it a bit of review. And he seems to think it's off to an incredible start, etc. I suspect this is a headset junkie talking. Um, but he reckons, having used it for a month, it's changed how he pursues VR and for the better. Now, that links into something else coming up, but where it is, I haven't a clue. Um, Okay, uploadvr.com again. This is really talking about immersive storytelling. Eventually, you can use with VR, so to speak, and it says it sets the stage for the future of linear storytelling across media beyond the AR and VR platforms it will launch on. This Wednesday at 4 p.m. PST, which would have been last Wednesday, in fact. But such is the nature of journalists, obviously writing on the day they write, if you like they do. Um, yep. And this, I don't really cover games or too much of the NEL things, but some of these that pop up that we do, maybe one a week or something, do seem to have clicked with our reviewers and things like that as something a bit out of the ordinary. And I think when we're talking about social virtuals and things like that, the sort of things you can do with storytelling do come into it. I mean, this scene, for example, I'm just scrolling up to would make a lovely screen here in OpenSim or, a similar, television set almost, if you see what I mean. Um, so there's quite a lot of information in that article. Let me just go back. It's called Elvin 1111. Yeah, yeah. The Explore mode will be available on all VR and AR platforms, and it's called 1111. Um, you write those words, by the way. I don't know whether you need to squash them or not, but you definitely write them. Otherwise, you'll just end up with four ones. And I think people might get confused if they saw four ones. Is that 1111 or is that 1111 or is that 1111? Who would know?
Hard to tell.
Anyway, hard to tell exactly. So, more about that at uploadvr.com. That's all one word, upload VR, VR being in letters, of course. Right. I'm gonna do things out of order because I'm really just getting a bit fed up with my screen defaulting to hypergrid business here. So, okay, this is moving into the Metaworld news feed. In fact, more to do with social virtual worlds. Maria Kovalov's hypergrid business has always been one of the standby sort of reads for stuff to do with OpenSim and the hypergrid being the thing that connects all these different independent platforms together so you can jump from one grid to another. Um, Although Maria writes about security as a day job and actually tends to write more about VR and AR and stuff now than the actual virtual worlds. But this week there's been a considerable number of things she has posted up which are kind of relevant. This first one actually is we used to make a big joke about that ago when we co-hosted a program called the In World Review, which we still do once a month or so. This is a group we used to call the Yo-Yo Grid. Their name is Avi Worlds. Now, apparently, I suppose this is to their credit. They haven't been seeing too much of the yo-yo recently. They've actually sort of, I think maybe the string must be broken, but it's broken in a position where they're in the up state rather than down. If you see what I mean. However, they've decided they don't want to be on the hypergrid anymore. Um, at least for this week or next month or whatever. Come June the 1st, hypergrid access will be shut down. And Avi Labs needs to create value and also distinguishing characteristic from other grids out there. So in order to keep our own, odd English this, we will need to be a closed commercial grid. It's tried this model several times, including back in 2017. They say a hypergrid visitor has nothing to contribute to our community except trying to take and copy our objects and products to other grids. I think some people might argue that the other way around, actually, implying that Abbey World seems to have an awful lot of content that is not necessarily their own original content, but I won't comment on that. Hypergrid access allows OpenSIM users to teleport from one grid to another as easily, blah, blah, blah. Um, I have no real comment on this at all. If they had lots of events going on there that people wanted to come to, and were functioning as some kind of commercial destination, as opposed to yet another place where you can rent a house, um, I don't think they would be the issue of somebody logging in and maybe taking a copy of something, which they're not allowed to unless you've made it copyable. Let's face it. It would not be an issue. I suspect what's happening is that nobody's actually going to the grid except people who go in to look around and see what's for free. I'm just as guilty as anybody else about that kind of thing. Um, that's the only reason I would go there. If, however, I got a notice saying there was a great blues band playing, or there was an expo of science fiction stuff, or something that interested me, then I would hypergrid there and go to the event, because it's just a hypergrid away. As it is, if there is an event there in future, I won't be able to go because it's not going to be on the hypergrid. So it swings and roundabouts, and I suspect well, no more comments. Anyway, that's this month's, this year's news, I suspect, from the Yo-Yo Grid. So,
Hmm.
how long before we get more news from the Yo-Yo Grid?
Yeah.
So, find out more about that at hypergridbusiness.com, and also hypergridbusiness.com is the same link you want for a few of the things that are coming up now. Um, the Kitely market. Now, this does service the hypergrid, and obviously there is a grid called Kitely, which it also services. Basically, this is a paid marketplace. In other words, you go to get commercial content, and you can buy things there, a bit like. The Second Life game has a marketplace, and High Fidelity, Science Space, all these other ones have marketplaces for virtual goods. The great thing about the Kitely market is that it doesn't just sell to its own grid, Kitely, but it sells all over the hypergrid, and it has a sort of system in place where when you buy something, usually what happens is they deliver it to you in a parcel that you can put down in your own grid. In other words, the grid you live in. It may actually be copyable and exportable too, which means you could, buy one copy and then put copy on multiple different places, or it may be limited to one copy and you get a copy that's usable on the grid you live on. Um, but it does mean a lot of people shop there because, I mean, after all, you could be on one of hundreds or maybe even thousands these days of open sim grids, some of which nobody knows about because they're behind closed doors and used for education and things like that. And people can simply go to the kind of market and say, "Oh, there's the carpet I've been looking for," and buy it, and it gets delivered to their own particular grid. Um, so they've now reached. This isn't 30,000 sales, by the way. This is 30,000 listed items, which is quite a big inventory of items. I doubt if there's anybody out there, except possibly um, Ilan Totner himself, who actually has a copy of all 30,000 items on the store. But anyway, you can see from that graph that graph starts in July 2014. I'll use my cursor just to help you. I mean, this is July 15, sorry, January 15, then July 15, January 16, mid 16, 17. You get the idea, 18. And now we're up to the latest figures are for January of this year, 2019. That's a pretty unarguable rise year upon year. Um,
Yeah, and and
the colors, yeah, the colors, the big rise you see there is for the total variations, so that's really what counts. The red ones at the bottom are actually pretty consistent over time. They're actually exportable goods. In other words, you can buy them. Um, oh, hang on.
no, the
No, sorry,
opposite.
that's the greeny bit.
Right,
Yes, I've
right.
got it. I should stop commenting. I'm a bit colorblind on the screen. I can't tell which is which. Yeah. Anyway, so you've got exportable versions and non-exportable versions, but it's the blue bit that really counts there. It's quite a dramatic increase.
Well, and
Sorry, you were saying,
it's
James.
just the
Yeah.
volume of exportable. It's great to see that the trend has been towards things that are exportable as opposed to non-exportable. It indicates to me a greater
Yeah.
sense of sharing in the item publishers.
Yeah, and I also think that's inevitable. I imagine publishers have been forced to make things shareable because of the nature of OpenSim, and Hypergrid, and the kind of marketplace as serving it.
Hmm.
Um, I would even go so far as to guess that the more or less clumpy sort of line at the bottom may be sales to Kaido's own grid, where or you know that um, that's the only place they can put them, kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know, but the growth there is just remarkable anyway. Because it's a steady. It does seem to be. I mean, it's not a straight line, but it almost could be. It's not like it's suddenly incrementally rising year after year. It's just this steady growth over what is it, 5 years, and
Well, and
hopefully.
accelerating growth too. I mean, it would be
Oh yeah,
if
yeah,
it had
for
been
sure.
straight from the beginning, it would be about only two-thirds of what it is.
Yeah, yeah, I like the ones that have a small curve at the beginning and then it gets really steep and then
Right,
it's just
right.
going uphill. And the latest statistic looks like it's changing by the second.
To infinity.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But no, that's good news for Ilan Totner, who runs Kitely, of course, the market and the grid. And yeah, 30,160 different items, to be honest. So they're not mentioning the other 160, but these are apparently grouped into 15,000 product listings. So um, that's 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 probably equally important because it shows that not only is there a vast number of items, but there could well be a pretty good number of different kinds of items, variety-wise. Um, yeah, and the bit at the bottom actually is apparently. By comparison, the number of limited items for use just on Kitely's remain flat. So there we go. There are actually now only 5,000 items that are not exportable, which means they can't be downloaded um, um, elsewhere. Right. Anyway, it's read all about it. All these posts this week seem to be from Maria herself. So you can find that at Hypergrid Business. Right. Now, this isn't Hypergrid Business, actually. There are a few others. But again, it is the social worlds thing. Um, there is a sort of social world out there called Rec Room. And I think we had this from another source or some variation of it last week. Um, but they're taking a big step outside VR, the helmet world, and into VR, the social world, by making Rec Room available on the iPhone and the iPad very shortly. And you can probably tell from the picture there that it's not the most non-cartoon like environment, but we have seen worse. And I particularly like the idea that something along these lines will be available on my iPad and my iPhone, though I can't quite imagine doing anything with it on an iPhone screen. So you'll find out more about this at road2vr.com. That's the full words, road to and then VR, the letters. But once again, it's a web squashing job. Road to VR is all one word with no spaces, road2vr.com. And May 22nd was the date of that particular article. Right, moving on, moving on. Close. That's it. Back to RotoVR again, so I'm not going to read it out again. It's just rotovr.com. Oh dear, I've done it. What was I talking about? Right. An interesting comment here is that Facebook now has four separate social VR apps, and none of them whatsoever are available at launch on this Quest thing they've just brought out. Um, is this a case of, well, I don't know about left arm talking to right arm. It seems to be a case of
Mm.
five arms not talking to each other. It beggars belief that there wouldn't be a social VR app available at launch on the Quest thing, especially as Facebook itself effectively owns four of them. The VR chats and the Facebook Spaces is on Rift and Vive. Oculus Home is on Rift. Oculus Rooms is on Go and Gear VR. Oculus Venues is on Go and Gear VR too. But none are on the Quest. So, if you're after social stuff in VR, don't go questing on the Quest because you won't find anything in your Quest.
So VR chat is not Facebook. That's its own thing.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
Is it?
Yep.
Maybe that is at
It
launch
is
on
on the
Quest.
Quest.
I get confused. VR chat is something that is so shoddy to me. I know it's hugely successful, but I mean, to me, it just feels like something that ought to be a Facebook product. It just doesn't capture my imagination.
Well, it's
So,
all in the.
it's
It's
like,
all. What's the user app? What's the use case? And it's got a lot. It's got the right
yeah,
use case for a lot of people.
it is. I mean, so does Minecraft. So, I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
which I can't imagine fiddling around in Minecraft. I threw out my Lego when I was about 14 years old or something. You
Right.
know. But go figure. Right, okay, so Motor VR has that news there for you. Back to Hypergrid Business. Now, this is really just an incidental. This is tag, right? This is a new grid, or maybe an old grid, I'm not sure. But it's a closed grid. So it's an open SYN grid, but by being closed, it means it's not actually um, um, on the hypergrid, so you can't teleport out of it to visit other places, and actually you can't teleport into it either.
Right.
These closed grids, as Maria is calling them, or we all call them actually, as she says, they've been losing ground in OpenSim lately, and they suffered a big hit last year with the closing of InWorlds. Um, However, there are still two main choices. One's called Tag Grid, and the other's called Dream Nation. Tag has the lead with 1,800 nearly active users, whereas Dream Nation only has 506. Hardly worth writing about, is it? Well, it's more than this program.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll come to that in a minute. There's a review for saying how many hundreds of viewers I have. Right. Yeah, they developed a proprietary platform to bring in OARs from InWorlds. Right, it sounds like they've been trying to capture the some of the audience that disappeared from InWorlds with InWorlds collapse. Anyway, sort of a little bit of an interview there with the Constanza Amsterdam. person behind tag. And they do make a point of saying that, again, that Kitely market that we mentioned a few minutes ago does actually service the tag grid. In other words, when you buy something off Kitely and have it delivered to tag, I presume it would be a bit like the red line where things aren't actually copyable because you'll only be able to use them in tag where they're delivered to you. But anyway, yeah. There's also Tag Grid has its own marketplace for tag users and residents, and virtual currency can be earned and cashed out via PayPal or used to pay rent for regions. So multifunctional currency there. Okay, moving on. That's again is hypergoodbusiness.com, and so is this latest one, which is basically the general OpenSim statistics update. OpenSim, as I mentioned, is probably the most popular of all virtual world platforms in the sense that it's open source. It can be downloaded and installed, and you can run it anywhere from a commercial server to a small self-hosted server or hosted server, or on a website if you've got enough space and they handle that kind of stuff. Or you can do indeed like we do with our studios. We simply host it on a home machine, and it works absolutely fine if you only want a few people in a grid at a time. And of course, if you go with the defaults for OpenSim, this thing called the hypergrid is enabled, which means that once you've installed it, it doesn't matter whether it's on your home machine or whether it's on your website or whether it's on with a big hosting company or even a fully fledged commercial grid. So long as it's still hypergrid enabled, you can could jump freely between them. And I find this is really an ideal way of considering the metaverse. I mean, I log in here to not necessarily our studio where I'm broadcasting from, but the grid I have, which is on. It's running on my desktop, not this particular machine, but another machine not, right behind my back, kind of thing. And I can do anything I want there. I'm free to do whatever I want, including bringing James and other guests into the studio for recording programs, or if they want to come and have a look around. But likewise, I can jump out to events here, there, and everywhere, and I can buy stuff or get stuff given to me, pick it up and bring it back. And all my inventory and assets and stuff like that are all safe on my home grid. And that home grid, because it's on another computer in my own network, is instantly available. It's not like I'm not affected by the risk of anybody ever, starting an operation, hosting me, and then closing down, and I lose all my stuff or anything like this. This is like my home, but it's a virtual reality home that happens to be in my home. And from there, I go out the front door to do things, and I come back in through the front door to do things one does at home, even though if this home actually is a gigantic island, which beats the real world home, but you get the idea. You get the idea. So, um, OpenSim has suffered a number of shocks in the past year, and this is referring to the network of grids rather than the actual OpenSim, the actual platform. Several significant grid closings in a row. They mentioned in World's closing was shut down last summer. That was a closed grid anyway. Virtual Highway shut down. Lost Paradise Sanctuary hasn't been online for a while. I didn't even know that. It's unfortunate. YR Grid, gambling and Bitcoin. Well, their crowdfunding effort didn't help them very apparently. Genesis. So they list a few, um, but there's still an awful lot of darn grids up there and out, and more are coming on line all the while. So this article features Maria's famous sort of pie charts, and no, that's not a pie chart. What do you call these other ones?
Bar chart.
Bar chart, bar chart. That's the word I'm looking for. Oh dear. Thinks back to the long forgotten days of office software. Yes, bar chart. That's what they call it. Right. Tells you a bit about open source. OpenSim, by the way, as a platform in itself, is compatible with Oculus Rift. Let's see. Commercial hosting starts at less than $5 a region, compared with $300 a region in somewhere like Second Life, which is actually a walled garden as well to boot. Um, the comparison is astonishing. You know, why spend $300 a month to have a tiny bit of land in Second Life where you can't visitors can't get in or out without logging into Second Life's platform, compared to something like pay £5 a dollar a month for something that's connected to every other open grid in the metaverse. The logic is self-explanatory in my opinion, although Second Life does still have a lot of users. Go figure. Right. Hypergrid continues to denominate. It goes through the top grids. OS grid is still it's not exactly a dev's grid, but you know, it's the original one. A lot of the developers are members there, and you know, it's the old timers all still hang out in OS grid, although they may be on other grids too. Greek life, yet again, comes second, though you don't see much advertised there. It's very odd, but it does just seem to have a lot of regular users, like 2,500. That's followed by Metropolis, and then this one that was mentioned a minute ago called Tag Grid, which again is a closed wood. Then you've got DigiWorld, ZetaWorld, Sakrarian Foundation Grid, Eureka World. Kitely is down, itself is down at number 10. But, you know, given the hundreds out there, that's still quite high. Um, let's see. Dream Nation is 15. Discovery Grid is 14. Craft World is down at 19. But well, and it goes down to 25. But I mean, when you're talking hundreds and whatever, these, you know, even the one at 25 is called the Public World. Um, when I say down at 25, I mean that's not bad at all because it could be down at 2,500. You know, the active list is based on 30-day user login numbers that grids report on their stats pages. Some grids I know may not be there because they don't publish their stats. So tough shit. If you don't publish your stats, you can't very well be included in a measure that involves stats, can you? Hey, no, no, this is called mathematics and thinking. Yes, framework. Okay. 40 top grids by land area. Oh, good grief. Okay, I'm not going to read all this out. If you want to read all about it, Maria's got the whole summary there. So just go to Hypergrid Business, and I'm sure you'll see in a sidebar or something, OpenSim stats update. Okay, and while you're there, there's plenty more to read too. Um, One is an article, actually, this one comes from Terence Smith earlier in the week, talking about deep learning in autism treatment blurs the line between machine and human. And this is much more a sort of educational sort of VR thing. This actually link comes from the Malbone's feed, not from the Hypergrid, sorry, the Metaworld news feed. It's a bit confusing which goes to which feed. Right, one final post here, which I've been leaving to the last from Hypergrid Business. Maria also has an article looking at the, you know, where do the people in social virtual worlds and stuff go to socialize these days over and beyond the grid they're a member of. And, you know, the social platforms for open grids. Now, this is prompted by the fact that Google Plus, which used to be a favorite place for grids and event organizers, posting announcements, etc., discussing topics of interest. That's gone, and Google closed it down. So there was a sort of bit of an exodus towards a site called MeWe. There is still Facebook and Twitter. All of these actually provide different functions, and MeWe is probably the most similar to. It looks more like Facebook, but it's probably more similar to Google Plus. Um, Maria goes into them, including another site called To Do. That's the number two DO, um, which you can see there. Yes. um, Oh, and you've got a nice little thing there. To do is basically a sort of events calendar, and as far as I can tell, it's an aggregate. In other words, it takes stuff from things like OpenSim World, which, for example, I already do in the Hypergrid Explorers Discord channel, and basically aggregates them so that you can go to the website and you see a nice big fairly basic type, what the latest event is. And I think it displays the latest 12 or 14. It's not a long list. You can scroll down and look for what's on in 2 weeks' time, kind of thing. Anyway, Maria goes on about this. She mentions OpenSim World, which is a good place to look for events, and also OpenSim World themselves do have a region of that name on the OS grid, which she mentions there. This is where she talks about 2DO, the hypergrid events thing, and you can see what I mean about aggregation there. That's all stuff you'll find listed elsewhere that's just brought into a sort of feed of the um, you know uh, it basically stops at the bottom there. So how many is that? I don't know. It covers a couple of hours anyway. Um, it shows the next 16 events. There we are, and it links to websites for full details. And they're hoping to allow you to teleport directly from the board, but that's only if you've got the web page on the board in your region, which is a whole different ball game. You can see an example there. Right. Then she talks about MeWe, which is the newest options and is becoming quite popular. She's mentioned that we've got a Metaworld has a page there, and yeah, adult metaverse, OpenSim virtual metaverse authors, etc. And various grids are there, etc., etc. So MeWe's the place to be. And then she comes to mention Discord. Now, there was no. We have a group called Hypergrid Explorers and Creators. It wasn't even mentioned here on the first draft, and I wrote to Maria pointing out the error. And she got back to me within about a minute, and about half an hour later, or less, she'd completely rewritten this article. She now mentions it right at the top there. Mostly, I think, because we have sub channels for all sorts of grids. And she personally finds Discord a bit hard to get used to, but I think it's really is just a getting used to it thing because I find it far more easy and more intuitive than MeWe, which I really don't actually like very much. She even tells you how to invite people, set up servers, invite people, complete with a picture of me on mine. Yep, and she interviews a couple of people for quick bites on why they like Discord. Um, Facebook, well, I suppose she had to write about that, didn't she? Twitter, of course, just a small mention there. She did point out there's a hypergrid business grids Twitter list. It's a Twitter list rather than an account. And then she moves on to YouTube, which she didn't mention in the original article. And you might recognize the picture there. That's yours truly and James truly
How'd I get
on
in
a
there?
previous show, previous show, basically. She says there are many open sim related videos on YouTube, and her favourites are yes, Malbone's Metaworld News and Emerald Review videos. I've got hundreds of subscribers, and then she says she used to co-host one of the shows. Yes, this one actually. Hello, Maria. And she still misses it. Well, we know what to do about that, don't we, Maria? Come on. He's a nice kitty, kitty. Come on, I got some kibble for you. Come on over.
I like this on the
So,
picture in picture. It looks like Inception. I have the same shot.
yeah, yeah, it's all very yeah, picture in picture
Right,
kind of
right.
thing. Yeah,
Yep.
this is probably good. We should stay on this for a while.
Good.
Um, anyway, she mentioned she used to co-host well, both shows actually, and still misses it. But she actually asked, "Does anybody want to do another program about VR, XR, and AI with me?" And I've written back to her today, in fact, to say, do tell, give me a bell." So next time she's on a voice-capable connection, I hope she'll let me know. See what we can do about that. If only they have a guest on this show for once for a catch up. Anyway, she does mention other things too. Chikaeon's tutorials, OpenSync
Mm.
community conferences, published at least by Avacon, and Gwyneth Llewellyn, Barry Spencer, Rich White, Joss Bone, some of her other favourites on YouTube, and various grids that actually have their own YouTube channels. And then she moves on to things like Internet Relay Chat IRC, which, as far as I think, really there's only two chat rooms there. There's OpenSim IRC and there's OpenSim Developers IRC, both of which I get in my IRC clients. There's never anything else. in the IRC client. There is actually a Hypergrid IRC group and another one for High Fidelity, but they've long since stopped having any real posts in them. Um, right, now the other thing that popped up this week, and I'll mention it from this, but I think, oh yeah, I've got another link for it anyway. Um, Let's see. Oh, yeah. She is talking to XMIR Grid founder Gia Nokulikaboy or something like that, who says he can't see his posting into any sites or communities at the time being, with the exception of indirectly through mentions through the OpenSim Dev meeting, which is IRC again. But he does actually mention that he's working on, this is the Gia chap, he's going to work on a new viewer for OpenSim called Day Turn, as in night turn.
Hmm.
Turning to night, turning to data, yeah. Dayturn, and has its own community forum. Although I haven't located that on RC. Datorm is an alternative to Firestorm that's designed specifically to work in OpenSim without the Second Life related bells and whistles, and has a school-friendly version. So you can, oh yeah, Maria also talks about grid websites and grid links. As you can see, Maria's article itself is rather a long one. But again, you can find that at Hypergrid Business. Now, I'm clicking through, where's it gone? It's along the top here somewhere. There we are. Right, now I've followed the link to that data viewer and the resources, and I was actually very surprised to see there are quite a lot of ones, including one that was updated this last Thursday, which is the Mac version 2.1.0 of data, which seems to actually be ahead of the Windows and Linux versions. Um, so I downloaded it, opened it, didn't really do much with it. I don't do much virtual world stuff on the Mac, in fact. I will actually load this on Windows and set it up with one of my regular logins to see how it works on Windows long term. It seems fast, easy, pretty elementary. Oddly enough, in the grid choices, it does include both Second Life grids, which puts pay to the fact it's OpenSim only. It does, as said, it has a much more minimalistic interface and menus than Firestorm, and presumably a lot of that is to do with their aim of eradicating anything that's Linden Lab specific. In other words, they're trying to produce a Firestorm that doesn't include um, Second Life specific things. In other words, it's totally adaptable to OpenSim. And doesn't get clogged up with Linden Lab stuff from Second Life. So good luck with that, and well worth looking on. I shall endeavour to get hold of. I don't know where he comes from. World Builder, here he is, Gear Knuckleby. I shall endeavour to get hold of him and maybe get him along to an interview or something one of these days. When we're talking about viewers, as we do at conference time and stuff like that. So this page that I've got open is actually www, of course, and .dayturn.com. Relatively easy, Dayturn, all one word. I suppose it's a sort of squash job, but yeah, Dayturn, that's one word really. Dayturn.com, and it's simply slash viewer slash index. Basically, I don't think there's much else up there at the moment. There you can register and log in there for the forums and stuff. And right. Oh, there's Tampa. What's his name from? That's IRC chat. I mean, just well, I'm doing this live, seeing if there's any names that I'm familiar with, but not at this stage. So anyway, there we go. Day turn. At least we've got a viewer that's got a short name and doesn't isn't a convoluted virtual investigation unit.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
.com or something. Right, okay, back on the old haptic stuff, mainstream VR. This is VR virtual reality times again. This is the squash job, virtual reality times, 3 words, squashed .com. And this simply talks about Sony, who've got a patent on haptic feedback gloves, which are specifically designed for PlayStation VR. Though, as with lots of these things, I suspect they will be adaptable to other platforms too. And if Sony has a patent and has a product, then it'd probably be in their interest to make them available to other platforms so that they can clean up on the royalties for the patent. Would it not? Yes, that's why people do patents. Um, Lofty ambitions for the upcoming PlayStation 5 aimed at making virtual reality experiences more immersive and realistic. And it then talks about the patent. And for my purposes, I'll just give you a very brief glimpse at the picture of the patent. And isn't that interesting? If you look carefully, you can recognize the outline of a hand, or rather the glove itself.
Mhm.
And then you can see lots of arrows and numbers and stuff that doesn't really make much sense at all. Although presumably, if they're looking to patent it, they will have provided some kind of explanatory notes to go with that. But on its own, it is totally meaningless, isn't it? Anyway, virtualitytimes.com has more on that. Right, Engadget now. Yes, a regular site here. engadget.com. Engadget, as you can see on the screen, in fact. And this is the UK version of the site I have open here. Mozilla, they who make, they're the ones who make Firestore. Oh, God.
Mm, mm.
Firefox
Firefox.
and Thunderbird and various other, old standards on the web. They're helping to make web-based VR available for everyone. Now, we've covered this before, but Noni De La Pino is very active in this field. Emblematic Group is behind the new easy-to-use platform. There's Noni wearing a helmet. Well, she has to, really, doesn't she? um, okay. It's mainstream for several years now. It's not very accessible, blah, blah, blah. A new project is called Reach. I'll just open that in a new tab in the background. It's a VR platform created by Emblematic Group and Noy de la Pena, who we featured on, blah, blah, blah. It's built on top of WebVR and in partnership with Mozilla. It was announced at Sundance 2019 earlier this year. It was just a few weeks ago, actually. And starting today, which would have been a couple of days now, it's finally moving into beta. And I think we can get a link for you on that too. As I say, this article is actually at engadget.com. We've even got a sparkly little Giphy thing there, showing showing a bit of virtuality on the web page. Yes, rather nice. The camera's moving. I don't know about the bloke, but we'll see. Anyway, this is Reach. It uses volumetric capture process to create three-dimensional models from a series of cameras. And she showed it at South by Southwest for an experience called Border Stories. And this one's all about the US-Mexico border, which apparently doesn't. Or maybe that's the trumped-up construction on the left there.
Could be.
Apparently the money for that has been with the almighty presidential thing, as he's not being able to get his money. He's been found guilty of misappropriating funds from defence because they wouldn't give him the money for a wall. So he's taken some money from the defence budget illegally to try and pay for the wall with it. Anyway, that's a whole different ball
Yeah,
game.
it
It's not
is.
in our remit. It's
Right.
not in our remit to go down that rabbit hole.
It's not in the virtual.
Uh, it's not in the virtual exactly. Well, it's not in the real either. That's the problem.
Right.
Well, or maybe tragically it is. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, interesting little article there. Now, as I said, while that was going on, I've oh, that's pretty. That's like my desktop. Introducing Reach. Play the video. Here we go. Okay. Well, oh, that's nice. The web address is www.reach.love. Love. That is actually a usable suffix for a website these
Wow.
days.
Okay.
I think I should register malburns.love.
Well, go for it.
I mean, it's nice, isn't it?
Indeed.
Well, www. We'll go back to I'll dig up one of my hippie archive sites and rename it Love. Oh, I can peace and rock and roll dot love or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, that would.
Melbourne's.free.love.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, actually, I wonder if anybody has got free.love yet.
Okay. I would think. Okay.
You would think it's the first thing they think of,
Right,
but
right.
anyway, you can reach this at reach. Oh dear. Okay. Oh dear. Oh dear. This is really inviting tongue twisting problems, isn't it? Right.
Mhm.
www.reach.love. That is where you want to go if you want to read more about Reach and even join them and get on their email list and check out the stuff they showed at Sundance, etc., etc. Right. Oh dear. Okay. Howtogeek.com. This is three words, squashed, of course. How to, not to, and then geek, Geeke. So HOWTOGEEK.com. How to geek squashed com. But no, forget it. Right. The state of VR headsets in 2019. What should you buy? Bit boring, really, isn't it? But it's I obligatory link really. I mean, any site that actually does a kind of roundup about what's going on, as opposed to poorly disguised PR for a particular product. Why not really? So this is really just a roundup. It's still all about games. In other words, what is available tends to be focused at games, and they are. This is obviously a consumer branded article because they're not really. Um, well, they're covering quite a lot, as you can see, but it seems to be consumer stuff they're talking about, with especially games rather than the enterprise. But basically, it's all the VR headsets that are around in 2019. Noticed by their absence, of course, there's no more daydream ones and all the other things that cardboards and stuff that has arguably pioneered a few things and now have disappeared into the realms of not no longer supported or made. So let's dispose of that. Oh, we don't want that one. Okay, the Mozilla blog here. Right. Oh, this is actually the one I just opened in the background while I was on the Reach stuff. Um, actually, that just seems to be a link to the full article that I'd actually just read out to you. So that's the Mozilla blog talking there, and yeah, we've covered that. In fact, I will put that tab into that position because it's a good one to freeze on when we've got nothing else to talk about.
Oh,
My last link here is Walko VR's $250 wearable VR locomotion system. Got funded in 4 hours. I think the idea is you've got a locomotion system that works with Vive, Rift, MR, PMax, Gear VR, Go, and PS. That would be PlayStation, of course. Only costs $250, and I think it's all about the sort of things you wear on various
mm-hmm.
parts of your body to basically give you a sort of like a baby mocap, I suppose. Anyway, they've had no problem raising the amount of money they wanted at the start. And observed in the demo, stepping to the side without turning requires leaning and walking backward, requires you to lean back while walking in place. It takes some getting used to. That's probably quite wise. Leaning back and walking in place is one way of stopping yourself banging into a wall, isn't it? I've always worried about these motion capture ideas and headsets in small environments because, name me, I'd be. I'm not by nature what they call a headbanger, and I don't like heavy
Mm-hmm.
metal either. But VR is asking me to become a headbanger. As I will be colliding with every wall available. I'm bad enough with lampposts in the street. Please don't let me loose on the walls. Right. That's it, I think. That last link you will find at uploadvr.com.
Oh, okay.
And that was it. I'm going to leave open our little PR thing there from, wow, I'm not going to
No,
really.
not necessarily.
But it's nice to just finish that. It's nice, but let's close the windows. We'll just stick with some psychedelic graphics to go with the mood. Right, okay, well, James, what do you think of all that lot?
Oh, I
It wasn't much, but it was quite a lot, if you see what I mean.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was
Uh,
especially the posts from Maria. I thought were quite good. And Open Simulator is going to be there's a much larger playing field now with the virtual reality and the affordable headsets. So I can understand why some of things that are happening in Open Simulator are happening.
yeah,
Um,
and it was mentioned somewhere in one of those, or maybe elsewhere. I forget that. I think it might have been something Maria did mention, and that is that she had another post which is out of date, although for her it was this week on
hmm,
the cutbacks at high fidelity.
okay, right,
Um, but the fact that when it comes to consumer-based, virtual world spaces, OpenSim really is still very much a leader. If you're looking for something open source,
right.
cheap, in the user control, um, you know, um, we've enthused and still do about places like Sciencebase and High Fidelity, which are following their own destinies, so to speak. Um, Obviously, High Fidelity has made changes because they realised that VR, the headset variety, is not taking off in the grand way they may have hoped. I don't know about Science Base's view on that kind of stuff at the moment. And then, of course, you've got the Rec Rooms, VR chat, and whatever. There is a market there. I mean, it astonishes me that something like VR chat it can attract the number of users it does, and something like OpenSim, which is also relatively simple to get to grips with, doesn't. It may just be the lack of venues. I mean, for example, if I guess if with VR chat you go in and you chat, whereas with OpenSim, whatever grid you go to, even Second Life, which is a walled garden, you go in, you're not immediately in a VR chat room. You're in somewhere you have to explore. You have to find groups of people who share interests with you. You have to join communities, and it may take you several months to find a room that is a chat room in VR, if you see what I mean. So maybe the idea of a platform that just advertises itself as your avatar chat room is a good idea because you don't go wrong. You just go straight into the function rather than the exploration.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I mean, I have to say, I have a bit of a gripe with our virtual worlds in that I still feel like most of what's done in virtual worlds is conversation. There are very few
huh.
activities that involve walking along a path or navigating a maze. I mean, most of the things are sitting by a campfire or sitting in an auditorium and listening to a lecture or having a conversation. I think it's difficult to
I,
create
I
good content that requires 3D motion, but I don't think it's common.
I mean, when I look at a walled garden like Second Life, I have to say there are plenty of camp theatre and amphitheatre and talk environments which are great. They're the sort of things I used to go to there quite a lot. There are less so now, I think, or at least just variety wise. But then I look at the people that go on hunts. That's a very big thing in Second Life. There's always
Treasure
something to
hunts
hunt
type thing.
on.
Yep.
And well, it's people who shopping for free things. Really, they follow clues. They visit stores. The stores hide objects in their shops, and the hunters are going looking for the thing for the hunt to pick it up, and they're following a clue, which will tell them, it'll be some cryptic clue telling them that it's behind the third shelf in the second floor area with t-shirts or something like that. But while it's a typical real world trick. It's like supermarkets have these things called loss leaders. They're tricks where the supermarket doesn't make any money, but they're there to get you into the shop because they're giving away the freebie or whatever it is on the basis of capturing you while you're in there, and you'll see other things that you actually do want to buy. And the profits on what you buy will offset the freebie they gave you to get you in.
Hmm.
So it's questioning, but hunting is quite a big thing. And game wise, you've got some wonderful things which are kind of like hunts, but more sophisticated, like Mad P games do.
Oh, right. Yeah, those are
They do
fantastic.
these long sort of things, and they engage people, huge amounts. Now you don't see big crowds in one place there, or you get lag hell. But what you do is you have people that sign up for these things. They do it in their own time, and you go on one of those quests, and there's always a few people around, a few ahead of you, a few behind you, a few in the same place you are sometimes. But fortunately, they're so big and it's so well staged that you're not joining a carnival procession. You're following a, a carnival route on a down day.
Mm-hmm.
It's so that was so it's, and there are those people who pay ridiculous amounts like $300 a month to Lindenland for a private island so they can just go and escape there with their partner. Um, they may be living in a small 6 by 4 square cubicle in real life, and they've got an exotic island and a yacht in the virtual, and it therefore provides. Well, it is escapism in a way, but it's also, you know, it's it's an escape from a sort of supplement there, to well, just give them virtually more space than have in real life, and so I think it goes beyond chat certainly. But you're right, chat does. Some people like the chats. They they go to chat events. I mean, it might be people involved in non-profit organisations chatting. It might be librarians getting together to chat. It might be an individual book club meeting up with meeting of avatars in a virtual world, or it could be politics. There was one show I remember in Second Life that I stopped filming because they were using underhand tricks to get money off you. Um, but that was a political, left wing politics sort of thing. Um, when I was in Canberra, every 2 seconds they were nicking another 500 linters off me, and because my camera didn't show the interface, I had no idea it was happening.
Oh.
I mean, bad form that, still from the cameraman, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right.
So I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. They can find a cameraman who's richer than me.
Well,
Um,
I don't have anything wrong with chat. I don't have any objection to that being the case. In fact, I'm much happier having people gather for a lecture in a virtual world than
yeah,
driving their automobiles to go watch
sure.
a chat. So I'm
Yeah.
very much in favor of that. I'm just saying there aren't a lot of people, I think, in virtual worlds actually inhabiting their avatars and moving around in them as much as they are having
No,
conversations.
yeah. Um, I think when it comes to conferences and things like that too, you're very, when we do the Open Sim Community Conference, for
Mm-hmm.
example, we meet with the regular crowd there and, privy to their back scenes talking. Um, there's always that division. There's the regular people who come now, or maybe just come every year, and then people are new. And the fact that some of these are people who log in to come specifically to the conference, who do not log in for any other reason when there's not a conference on.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they need refresher courses on how to use it and move their avatars and things. And actually, the sole function is to get them in, get them to actually take a seat and stick in it,
Right. Right.
which avoids the lag. And I think that's fair enough. I mean, if you can actually get an audience of 400 people over 4 sims to actually sit down and not move around, then you're going to have a much more stable simulator than if they're all standing up, walking around all over the place. That's just, the facts of life is once you sit an avatar down, it becomes less hungry for resources, basically. Um, so that is a particular kind of setup. But then there are other events that may happen every week, and people will gather for them, and that's very different because they're not occasional events. They're things that people turn up at regularly. And I remember well, they weren't huge things, but they were very popular. They're like the old hypergrid safaris.
Mm-hmm.
That was the opposite. I mean, people got together, they did chat,
Right.
but in fact, the emphasis was on moving and usually crashing sims that you tried to teleport to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all manner of chaos
Mm-hmm.
because it was all about movement
About
and moving the
exploring.
group
Right.
together.
Right.
Yeah. Um, so I mean, I think I mean, you're very right. One of the things that I was always passionate about virtual worlds about was eliminating the need for airline fuel, petroleum, and everything else. Commuting. traveling to conferences and stuff. Likes to do that now and again, the organic touch sort of thing, but, not, I mean, the home workplace, was a key thing to me, which I don't think ever really took off, but it could have done with the early days of Second Life and things where, more and more employers would actually have the avatar of their employee logged in. They could keep an eye on them, but they could still be working on other stuff. A lot of home workers do that now. They log in at the beginning of the day with their companies so that their bosses know they're online and working, but then they actually do the work at home and
Hmm.
stuff. But including the virtual environment as part of that equation, I always thought
Yep.
would be great. Um, but some things work, some things don't, and I still think even now um, that it may be the nature of the cartoon look of most Avatar worlds, including this one, OpenSim. I mean, this Avatar is not a VR chat avatar, that's for sure, but it's not photorealistic either. It's somewhere in between, and I've got I know people who just won't come into this kind of thing because they're put off by the thing. They think they're jumping into some kind of cartoon, and then if sometimes they're even horrified to realise that every cartoon is another real person behind it. Um, but I think there was always a lot of hostility in the middle layer of workplace and things, rather than the ones that experiment. The workplace guys would just think, oh, yeah, we're not going to put our staff in a cartoon all day. And I think the idea of a sort of cartoony type environment, albeit a very powerful one, it was that superficial, impression of it that had a lot more impact, unfavorable impact on people than actually the potential of what you could do once you overcame the thing about avatars looking cartoony. Um, I don't know, but I think there was a missed opportunity there, really. But that's just people, when something's new like that, they think, oh, oh yeah, talking cartoon, fine. I remember that from Children's Hour on TV, and they don't fully understand that those cartoons are actually other real people talking to each other and doing things and collaborating. Because they're stuck on the idea that the cartoons aren't real, if you see what I mean.
Hmm. So that said,
Um,
I did get an Oculus Quest myself, and I am very
ah,
happy with it. I really like
have
it.
you got Oculus Go?
No, I didn't do that one.
Right, so you can't compare them. Yeah,
Right, right. But it's quite good, and people talk about not having the wire. I think as much value as not having a wire and needing an expensive computer is that this is like an iPod, the music
yeah.
player. I mean, you just turn it on and you use it. When I use my virtual reality headset, I have to make sure I have the correct updates. I have to make sure my Windows computer is
Uh,
updated. I have to make sure my
yeah.
drivers are updated. I have to make sure and the Quest, you just turn it on, put it on, and off you go. It's great.
I must say the Oculus Go
Hmm.
is like that too. I mean, I just don't like the thing on the heads for so long, and
Right.
of course, like Windows, it did, put it on a couple of times, and it wanted to update its software, of course,
Mm-hmm.
via Wi-Fi or whatever. No, I mean, I think that is ultimately usable. I still think that, like a lot of people, I think it was Ebby Oldberg from Second Life who was saying that, he very rarely touches a headset, he
Mm-hmm.
works with screens and stuff, but he always has one by him. So if something comes along like a meeting where he wants it, he can put it on.
Right.
Presumably it's wired up and ready, so he can just put it on, tethered. And I certainly like the untethered idea. Although if I'm going to hold it by my desk and put it on, for a meeting or something, then it's like putting on the headphones, and the microphone to do this show.
Mm-hmm.
It's a requirement of, for an hour or so for the show.
Right.
So likewise, so, something on my desk I can put on to enter a more, 360 environment is, I can see it being useful. Um, Obviously, the Quest does that without wires. But because it's not an extension of the interface you've got on your screen, then it drives me for all the convenience of it being wireless. Every time you put it on, you've got to navigate to wherever it is you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You won't already be there on your desktop, so it's not hot swappable, as it were, as a display unit. And secondly, if it is wireless and you're moving around with it on, that is fine. It's probably much more agreeable for an extended period of time than something like the Rift. But again, we're down to how many people actually have that long-term use as a use case. I think
Well,
most people,
yep.
it may be untethered, but do you really wear it for 2 or 3 hours at a time and walk around in it and bang your head on all the walls? Yeah, I
There you
don't,
go.
I don't,
hit your
I don't know.
sibling right with your controller.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the Oculus Go, so I know in rudimentary terms what the untethered experience feels like. The moment I stand up, I get dizzy. The moment I try moving around, I feel wow, but I feel a bit unsteady on my feet, and I freeze on the spot
Hmm.
because I know that if I dare move even 1 foot away from where I'm standing, I'm going to bump into something, such as my living space. It's cluttered. It's not like I've got a big room where I can safely go in all directions for even 6 foot.
Yep.
I'm going to hit something, and it's probably going. It'd be just my luck that the thing I hit will be something fragile. you know, either my either my body an injury or some physical object an injury, one or the other, if not both. Pardon me, cough, cough. Um, I don't know. So I mean, I feel like I wouldn't be there saying this if I didn't have the Oculus Go, which makes me feel I've experienced what you're talking about, if in a somewhat more rudimentary way. And certainly the first Google Cardboard thing. I mean, I think I ever did it for about 12 minutes. It also disorientated me, but it also overheated. It destroyed one phone
Mm-hmm.
battery
Right.
by overheating the battery. It near destroyed another iPod. But at least it gave me the first glimpse of what it felt like to move your head around with something in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And Oculus Go to me is, um, it astonishes me that, I can do quite a lot on it, but I don't. It's as simple as that. It's lying there, it's lying by my seating. I can reach my hand behind me at any time, pull it out, unplug it from the charger and strap it on. But I don't, you know. Um, I'm more likely to reach behind me and pick up the iPad
Right.
and do something on that. There are enough use cases that transcend the novelty, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that it is physically painful for me to wear something on my head for that long. I get sticky, I get a bit of a headache at the top where anything's resting on the top
Right.
of my scalp.
Yep.
Even my headphones, audio headphones at the moment, are beginning to annoy me because although it's a soft band over the very top of my skull coming down the sides,
Mm-hmm.
where it contacts with the top of my skull, after half an hour or something, creates it's not a headache, it's more of a kind of contact ache.
Yep.
And, I keep going up there and fidgeting to try and change the position by a millimeter or two. And with the headsets, I mean, especially with the elasticated side ones, they're not so flexible. You can't just wriggle a bit to reposition yourself. You've got to sort of pull out the elastic, and you can't just nudge them back a bit or forward a bit like you would a hat or something.
Yep.
Um, so anyway, I don't know. You got me on the rabbit hole again, so
Yeah, I like
let's
it.
let's
I like the Quest. I'm very optimistic about it.
yeah,
It'll be fun to see what the sales figures turn out to be and what the consumer
yeah,
reaction is. It's very easy to use,
yeah.
extremely easy to use.
I wonder if it will impact on the Go. I don't know
The
what the Go
Ghost's
sales are
not supported
like.
anymore, I don't think.
So in fact, Quest has really taken over by
Yeah.
being an upgrade to the Go.
Yep.
That would certainly make sense
Yep.
because, yeah, that's interesting.
There's
Yeah,
just no one developing content for the Go, so it'd be hard to support it.
yeah, and Quest of course supports content that's from the Rift, doesn't it?
Some of it.
Rather,
Yep.
yeah. Some of it,
Yep.
right? Oh well. Yeah. Well, maybe we should try and drag Maria back into all this and
Yeah,
her
yeah,
expertise.
yeah. This is
You
definitely
can
a
have you can have a mutual headset party.
right.
I will sit in the audience and say, "Oh, I wonder what they're seeing in the
All
headsets."
right. Yep.
We will see. Okay, well, that's for the future, and who knows?
Right.
Um, all my viewers have disconnected. It tells me. Oh, that's the screen share. Of course they have. I'm not sharing anymore. Stop sharing. There we go. All my many viewers on the screen share. You were the only viewer.
Yeah. I still see it.
Right. Yeah. Do you?
Hmm.
Oh, well, I've killed it. Oh, yes, yes. Actually, it is still sharing by the look of it. Who knows? Right. Okay. So I think we're at the end of the long journey
Hour
for
and
this
20
week.
minutes.
You
Yeah,
know, this has been a long show, despite
it
the fact I
has.
didn't think.
Yeah.
I think it's the fact all the hypergood business stuff
Yes.
there gave us a bit of things to talk about too.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Well, we better call it quits before we put everybody to sleep if they're
Right.
not dozing already. Um, yeah. What's what? We will return same time, same place next week, which is of course 11 a.m. Pacific on Sundays on YouTube. But you watch us in replay anyway, as you can, of course, whenever you want. It's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from him, James. That is
Well, thank you, and
goodbye
goodbye.
from him.
Goodbye for
Yeah,
him too.
yeah. Right. Goodbye from us. One day we'll get a perfect sign out sorted. Have a good week, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.